Battles are won by courage, by standing firm in the face of overwhelming adversity, by advancing to certain death when every instinct is screaming at you to turn. When you land on a world where every lifeform is determined to kill, eat, or enslave you, and there's nowhere to run because the dropships have already lifted, you don't have much choice but to fight, to advance and to stand firm. Everyone's a hero when there's nowhere left to run. The armies of the Imperium encompass numerous doctrines, martial traditions, and strategies derived from humanity's rich history of conflict. Whether clad in the humble flak armor of the Guard or gloried ceramite of the Angels of Death, the soldiers of the Imperium continue the Emperor's conquest of the stars, won through millennia of bloody warfare. For today, we shall elucidate the template to which the militaries of mortal men aspire to become, the pinnacle of the Emperor's armies, drawn from the humblest of stock. The vanguard of the Great Crusade, the Solar Auxilia. In order to reclaim the lost glories of humanity once more into the fold of Holy Terra, the Master of Mankind required armies so vast that they would dwarf all other vestiges of once mighty galactic empires. Named after the system which would birth their glory, the Solar Auxilia encompassing a large portion of his imperial army, the legions of more than 1 million combined Astartes, a speck of sand in comparison to the mortal soldiery's numbers. Though the Legiones Astartes would foremost lead the spear tip of his advance across the stars, nothing short of every man, woman, and child would be necessary to sustain, repopulate, and hold the worlds claimed in the name of the Imperium. To unite an entire star-spanning species is an undertaking of the most costly nature, and thus the Imperial Exertus Imperialis was born, encompassing naval, ground, and air warfare, facilitated by billions of laborers, support crew, logisticians, almoners, and officers. The Imperial Army had risen from the war-torn ashes of the Unification Wars, and mobilized into a force never before seen by the denizens of the galaxy. A glorious sword, which carved a path through Xenos hovels and eldritch horrors, coated in the blood of incalculable sacrifices made to its glory. Organized by the Emperor's unimaginable intellect into specialized regiments, divisions, and organizations, one above all would signify the true elite of the Imperial Army's might. The Solar Auxilia, exacting in its development of frontline soldiers worthy enough to bear their badge upon their uniforms. Only the most hostile war zones and venerated bastions would be fitting deployments for these nonpareil souls. Supporting the Legiones Astartes in their endeavors as the pinnacle of what non-transhuman warriors could achieve. Where the Space Marines acted as a hammer blow which would shatter mountains, the Solar Auxilia acted as watchmen and pathfinders, able to locate the weaknesses in such targets' foundations. Garrisoning the most invaluable frontier outposts and renowned voidcraft at the front lines of the Great Crusade, these most well-equipped and trained of all mortal soldiers guarded the spoils of conquest from would-be aggressors to the Imperium's domains. Though incapable of matching the brute strength of the Angels of Death, all other foes known to humanity faltered in opposition to the Auxilia's strength. Untold petty wars waged by arrogant Xenos laid low by the best and brightest of the Scions of Terra. Combining the military pedigree of the soldiers of the Unification Wars with the technological brilliance of the tech savants of the Saturnine Order, these independent kingdoms of the polities of Saturn derive their namesake from the toil-establishing kingdoms among asteroid enclaves, orbital arcologies, and lunar outposts during the Age of Strife. Masters of void warfare, armed with the most powerful fleet within the Sol system, this body, not influenced by the adepts of Mars, had until the dawn of the Legiones Astartes remained unbested by all other human military forces. Yet with the establishment of the Imperium of Man, the Saturnine Ordo pledged fealty to the Emperor, aiding the Master of Mankind's voyage to the stars, offering voidcraft and expertise aplenty. The first 10 regiments raised of the Solar Auxilia, known as the Saturnine Rams. These descendants from the void hoplites of Saturn paved the way for future auxiliaries to follow. Aiding the as of then only Legion of Astartes, the first in their conquests, as more Space Marine creeds were created, so too were Solar Auxilia regiments organized to accompany their fledgling glories. the Mechanicum of Mars, modifying the already venerated armaments of the Saturnine Order's prototypes. The mass production of its Forge Worlds enabled widespread adoption of their panoplies among the newly raised auxiliaries. Their pedigree accruing ever-increasing renown as the Great Crusade continued. To meet the demand of the Emperor's campaigns, new, larger contingents than regiments were required. Such cohort formations, crucial in securing far-flung worlds. Dispatched far from the world wherein they were recruited to reduce instances of rebellion within feudal and feral worlds. The mental and physical aptitude tests required of these initiates, weeding out those incompatible with the Auxilia's high standards. Within 2 centuries of the Great Crusade's expanse, a minimum of 20% of the Imperial army now encompassed the Solar Auxilia. Tens of millions of souls, pledged to carry out the will of the Emperor, armed and armored in the finest war gear that any mortal could hope to clad them for war. Yet with the dawn of the Horus Heresy, the Solar Auxilia would be torn asunder. Many noble auxiliaries putting their loyalty to the War Master above that of the Emperor, having bled in the Lupercal's name, never witnessing the grace of the Master of Mankind. 2/3 of the Solar Auxilia cohorts, remaining loyal to the Imperium, stood fast on garrisoned worlds, whilst the remainder separated into expeditionary fleets and rogue trader detachments. This was a war of angels first and foremost, the traitorous fathers of such crestfallen legions casting aside all in their advance to Holy Terra. Singularly suited to campaigns waged far from the Imperium's domains, and equipped for smaller scale engagements, the Solar Auxilia, under advisement from the Imperial War Council of Terra, appointed Lords Militant Imperialis to lead their fragmented armies. Though many had flocked to the Solar Auxilia in the name of duty, others had been lured by luxurious living standards, ambition, and riches. The minimum tours of duty, lasting 30 standard years of service, rewarded with lands, wealth, and positions of power upon colony worlds. Yet the War Master's ambition had sundered such promises for many. This hardened band of professional soldiers, some of which having served numerous tours of duty, fighting on until the last days of the Horus Heresy. Diminished in standing, resources, and glory due to the rampage of the traitor legions, the Solar Auxilia would be disbanded during the era of the Great Scouring. The Imperial army split into the distinct Astra Militarum and Navis Imperialis, now no longer capable of harboring a creed which required both independent organizations' resources to maintain. Legendary as the heavy void warfare contingent of the Imperial army, the Solar Auxilia were versatile in conducting both voidcraft boarding maneuvers and ground warfare. Adhering to the doctrines of the Principia Bellicosa in terms of regimental structure and battle doctrine, initially each regiment typically housed 5,000 soldiers led by a legate colonel and their officer caste of 300 junior officers and specialists. As the demands of the Great Crusade burgeoned, so too did the scale of the Solar Auxilia formations. The newly devised autonomous solar cohorts capable of harboring 120,000 soldiers within their ranks, requiring thousands of support staff to maintain function within armies which compared to the most sizable Space Marine legions in scale. Marshal Solar broke down each force into more manageable contingents, each encompassing 1% of their total might. Their subordinate, legate commanders, or sub-commanders, responsible for 1,200 men each. Much smaller blocks of the cohorts would be known as a tercio, comprised of up to 3 infantry sections, totaling 60 soldiers. A section, typically encompassing 20 infantry, commanded by a junior officer. Cohorts typically contained las rifle sections of 70,000 men, 3,000 within the Velataris sections, 7,000 weapon specialists, 22,000 support ancillaries, 10,000 voidsmen, and 5,000 men of miscellaneous roles. The most elite tercios would be known as Velataris, each made up of 3 10-man squads of veteran troopers, armed with flamers and Volkite chargers. Each tercio, regardless of their veterancy, self-sufficient not only as armsmen, but also engineers, explorers, and survivalists. All would brave the terrors of the void, armed with expertise aplenty. Total command of such cohorts, the responsibility of the primary Lord Militant or Lord Solar. Each commands a capital-class flagship protected by retainer cohorts, a fleet of escort voidcraft, elite bodyguards, irregular regiments, general staff, analytical cadres, servants, emissaries, and other myriad support staff. equal to the Imperial Court in standing within the Imperium, the Lords Militant answered directly to the Master of Mankind himself and his generals, the Primarchs. While Lord Marshals oversee the expansion of their mission parameters and battle group command, Lord Castellans see to the defense and garrisoning of crucial worlds. Lord Admirals organize their respective fleet's military application, whilst their strategic operational command, comprised of tribunes general, subordinate staff officers, representatives of the Armorium, artillerists, munitoria, medicae officers, discipline corps, and locum strategius officios, tend to the resource needs of such warcraft. The subordinate office of the Admiralty and Fleet, overseen by the Admirals Primaris and their subordinates, working with Astra Telepathica and Navis Nobilitae officials to chart a safe passage across the stars, whilst the Mechanicum assigned detachments of Magos Militants and Engineer Covenant Exercius, Tech Adept Emissaries, Tagmata, Ordo Reducta, Legion Cybernetica, and Legio Titanicus staff maintain the machine workings of the fleet. Each sub-army of the cohorts divided into Regiments Primus, Secundus, Militia Legions Minoris, Labor Auxiliaries, Punishment Cohorts, and Legions Minoris. Though each battle group varies in size, often each amounts to tens of millions of men and women under arms. The most bespoke campaigns, requiring extra incorporate assigned forces to aid the Lord Militant in duties outside their purview, agents of the Imperial Courts, Assassinorum, Council of Terror, Legiones Astartes, Knight Households, Rogue Trader Minoris, and even Remembrancer Order aided the Solar Auxiliaries' efforts to establish governance across newly claimed worlds. As the Great Crusade began to draw to a close, several cohorts of the Solar Auxilia accrued fame aplenty for their actions made. The original 10 cohorts, known as the Saturnine Rams, held an esteem requisite for such legendary pioneers. These sons and daughters of the moons of Saturn, clad in grey and blue panoplies, were armed with the most powerful weapons available to the Solar Auxilia. Their ram's head icon emphasizing their discipline and stubbornness. With time, their rivalry with the Chthonian headhunters would be tested during the Horus Heresy, as the two forces pitted their might against one another. Each fiefdom of the Sons of the Emperor, garrisoned by cohorts of the Solar Auxilia, known as the Legiones Auxilia. Each combined motifs from their patron Space Marine Legion, contained within inverted triangular sigils on their armor, as they guarded their homeworlds. The Calibanite Jaegers cohort, recruited from the homeworld of Lionel Johnson. These warriors clad in black armor, trimmed with bronze, would also be known as Calibanite Hussars, should they specialize in armored warfare. The Emperor's Children Legion, raising 2 cohorts to serve their whims. The first Archite Palatins cohort, clad in plum, silver, and black panoplies, would be drawn from the nobility of Terra's European region. Their second Arcadian Janissary cohort, recruited from the Bastion Highs of Arcadia, don the purple of the Third upon their helmets and pauldrons, alongside black and grey uniforms, despite never formally being inducted into the Legiones Auxilia. The Seleucid Foricite cohort, clad in iron plating and khaki fatigues, recruited from the world of Olympia. Despite watching their homeworld be destroyed by the Iron Warriors Legion, they nonetheless followed their masters into damnation, proudly bearing their master's hazard stripes. The Chagorian Limitane cohort, inducting recruits from myriad worlds such as Kolan, Capsis, Lemua, and Chagoris. Their livery of black plating atop brown fatigues honors their prior city dwellings, with notable veterans permitted to wear the white and red of their legion masters. The Fenrisian Chaos cohort, largely conscripted from the tribes of the Space Wars Deathworld and fiefdom of Lucan. Those elevated to the Aet Guard were permitted to patrol the route's fortress monastery, the Fang. The Inward Phalangite cohort, drawn exclusively from the Imperial Fist homeworld, wearing black plating adorned with gold atop khaki fatigues, supported their patron legion during the Battle of Beta Garman, whilst also guarding their flagship, the Phalanx. The Nostraman Damnati cohort, recruited from the rabble of the Night Lord's homeworld, clad in dark blue plating and grey fatigues, though veterans would be permitted to paint skull faces on their helmets in honor of their legion masters. With Nostramo's destruction, new recruits were taken from the world of Rebus, Okai, and Flint. The Seifan Eliati cohort, drawn from the Blood Angels fiefdom of Saif. Many of such members clad in red plating atop black fatigues consisted of unsuitable aspirants for Space Marine training. The Svenan Chain Shroud cohort, taken from the warring clans of Medusa. These stoic guardians clad in black plating and deep green fatigues were hardy by nature of the circumstance of their hazardous homeworld. The Nagrakal Phrexi cohort pledged to the World Eaters Legion. Their panoplies of bronze plating atop black fatigues mimics the armor of the Red Angel, as those who survived training by their Astartes masters within the gladiatorial pits honor their Primarch's legacy. The Calf Highguard cohort primarily recruited from the Erud provincial militia. Many distinguished yeomen transferred to the Solar Auxilia, hoping to earn a place within the soldiers clad in grey plating and white fatigues. Defending their homeworld from the aggression of the Wordbearers Legion during the perilous Battle of Calf, the Ultramarines forever owed a debt of gratitude to their mortal kinsmen who fought by their side during the Legion's time of greatest need. The Barbaran Ambaxtoy cohort, recruited exclusively from the Death Guard homeworld of Barbarus. Clad as they were in brown plating atop beige fatigues, their fortitude surviving on the toxin-laced world belies the constitution of their Astartes contemporaries. The Prosperine Spireguard cohort, native to the Thousand Sons homeworld. These sons and daughters of Prospero, clad in red armor atop cream fatigues, gave their lives to protect the city of Tisca from the invasion of the Wolves of Fenris. The Chthonian Headhunters cohort, adopting heraldry of black uniforms and red helmets, akin to the Cachulan Reavers of the 16th Legion's elite. These former gangers of the mining world followed their liege lord into damnation, gleefully decapitating foes in the War Master's name. The Colchizian Torquati cohort, drawn from the coastal cities of Lorgar Aurelian's homeworld. Alike to their masters, the cohort eschewed their former black and grey heraldry in favour of the red and black uniforms, often inscribed with runes and scripture devoted to the ruinous powers. The Proximan Sacramenti cohort, recruited from the nomadic, subterranean societies of the Salamander's fiefdom of Proximal. These adherents of the Promethean cult, clad in green plating, trimmed with bronze atop black fatigues, champion individuality as they personalized their armor with orange markings. The Ferion Bellites cohort, clad in black armor, typical of allies of the Ravenguard Legion. Though not experts of stealth and subterfuge, these soldiers honor the heraldry of the Ravenlord, polishing its surface to a mirror sheen. Last of the Legion's Auxilia are the mysterious Sparatoi Vindicta cohort, their namesake believed to translate to Sown Men, as their livery of deep blue plating and grey fatigues bears no identifiers of rank nor seniority to better conceal their command structure. More typical cohorts, such as the 905th, known as the Ash Scorpions, hailing from the industrial world of Lethe. Their aggression belied their ancient feral world culture and icon to which they appropriated. Clad in grey plating and black fatigues, this cohort sacrificed themselves within the Coronet Deeps, defending the Imperial harbour of Port Moor. The Janizar cohort of the Byzance system, aiding the 63rd Expeditionary Fleet during the Great Crusade, followed the War Master of Chaos into damnation. Clad in off-white void plating and brown fatigues, many displayed the red Gothic numerals LXII, marking their service to the 63rd Expeditionary Fleet. The 20th Bulls cohort of the Monarchian Commonwealth, clad in blue plating and grey fatigues. Their livery is said to be derived from the Mercator houses of ancient Manichaea, which preceded the Imperium's foundation. The Fata Garman Deathless cohorts, renowned for their skill at void warfare and security. Alike to their namesake, their skeletal white and black panoplies would be spattered with the blood of their brothers, as an inner conflict erupted within their ranks, as many chose to side with the War Master of Chaos during the Horus Heresy. Last of the revered cohorts is that of the 1522nd Lord Marshal's own, the vaunted vanguard of the 60th Expeditionary Fleet, which brought compliance to the world of Coronis Agathon. Serving at the pleasure of Lord Marshal Iriton Masade, this legendary officer's occupation of the planet and replacement of the ruling aristocracy with his own officer corps saw to his own dynasty giving rise within a mere generation of toil, as his rejuvenate treatments allowed for his continued service as among the most respected generals of the Great Crusade. Confronting the thralls of the War Master of Chaos Undivided within campaigns such as the Coronet Deeps, these veteran warriors clad in brown plating and dark green fatigues stood defiant against the forces of chaos during the Imperium's hour of direst need. Inheriting the genius of the prototype innovations made by the Saturnine Order, the legendary solar pattern void equipment of the Auxilia is a prized heirloom for collectors to this day. Reinforced carapace plating, allowing for full environmental protection from the elements, within even the thickest of fighting. Its integrated life support systems allow for combat within the vacuum of space, as easily as the surface of inhabitable worlds. Protecting from small arms fire, ballistic weapons, and shock trauma, neither lacerations, radiation, nor thermal damage can pierce this armor, which is inferior only in comparison to Space Marine Ceramite in its protective qualities. Most commonly armed with Kalbrax V1 pattern las rifles, notable for its reinforced energy transfer capacitors and durability. Its heat dissipation systems exceeded those of even the revered Mars pattern Mark II Urshban-Povka las carbine. Favoring directed energy weapons such as flamers, melters, and las cannons, both their capabilities of being used in void warfare and their simple maintenance requirements were a boon for the Solar Auxilia. Wielding the now rare in the extreme Volkite weaponry, which began its scarcity during the Great Crusade, only the elite Velataris carried such heirlooms into battle, which became a mark of honor and respect within their ranks. The officer caste most commonly carrying Terran-charnable sabers into battle. It was not uncommon for such commanders to duel one another between campaigns, in order to hone their martial skill and mete out grudges. On rare occasions, armed with Archaeotech pistols constructed during the Age of Old Night, such relics, though too small to be wielded effectively by Space Marines, were a reliable sidearm for among the Auxilia's most senior officers. Should the need be particularly dire, infantry of the cohorts requisitioned demolisher cannons, graviton weapons, irradiation projectors, lightning guns, Mauler bolt cannons, needle pistols, and photon thruster weapons. Such unstable heavy weapons reserved only for the most dangerous foes, such as the malevolent Crave Xenos. Only the most venerated officers of the Auxilia, entrusted with digital lasers, paragon blades, displacer matrices, iron halos, and other relics of both Xenos and Mechanicum design, no expense was spared to preserve these commanders of the Emperor's Great Crusade. Due to each cohort's nature as a self-contained and independent fighting force, their battle lines adapted to the needs of each specific war zone, whether overwhelmingly deploying armor, establishing defendable positions, or enacting lightning strike maneuvers. Most commonly deploying Dracosan armored carriers to better unleash their forces into the heart of the fray. These more heavily armored alternatives to Rhino transports also allowed for life support systems to safeguard those inside. Utilizing a robust pattern of Arvis Lighter from an STC pattern predating the foundation of the Imperium, whether used for reconnaissance, supply runs, or troop transportation, this reliable workhorse of the Solar Auxilia proved pivotal throughout their many campaigns. Unique in their use of specially modified Shark pattern boarding rams, their close naval support allowed the Solar Auxilia to enact devastating shipboarding actions, aided by fighter craft. Their heavily armored vehicle pools, replete with Leman Russ battle tanks, basilisks, and Medusa artillery platforms, the tech priests of Mars calibrated such weapons to the specifications of the Auxilia, tailored to aid their speed in constructing prefabricated defense outposts. Every cohort maintaining a minimum of a single super heavy armored subcohort. Malkador, Baneblade, Shadowsword, and Stormhammer vehicles laid waste to their enemies, as the rolling treads of the Imperial Army's finest sundered among the most heavily fortified enemy positions. Famed for their ability to hold the line no matter the enemy, resources, or circumstance, the armaments of the Solar Auxilia preserved untold numbers of their forces against the malevolent tide of darkness, encroaching from all corners of the void. For the backbone of the Imperium's Great Crusade is long gone, yet to this day, the deeds of these paragons of the mortal soldiery still inspire regiments of the Astra Militarum. An unstoppable force of adaptable and resourceful pathfinders, whether Cadian, Vostroyan, Kriegsman, or Terran by birth, all respect the forebears to which the Imperium's war machine inexorably moves onward.
Let my epitaph be this: I was born nameless and abandoned in the gutter of a sunless pit, but I have died a conqueror of worlds.
This has been a tale of the Great Imperium of Man, read by the Remembrancer. Though not crafted in the image of the Space Marine legions, the Solar Auxilia earned glories aplenty for their deeds made in the name of the Emperor. Their efforts to reach the pinnacle of mortal endeavor, a boon for humanity entire. It is a mistake to compare oneself to others, for it is easy to assume that their strengths have not been achieved without cost, and many other burdens that remain unseen by those around you. Legacies fade, and fortunes diminish with time, so be sure to invest in your own abilities, knowledge, and experience. For when all other material costs are depleted, you alone shall remain. And no matter your circumstance, it is up to you alone to craft your own legend.